Good morning and welcome to the Merced Baptist Church. It's always a pleasure to see my church family in the house of the Lord. If you guys wouldn't mind standing and joining me and our fantastic choir and singing our opening hymn this morning. We're going to start with our fellowship song, which is Love Lifted Me on page 543. We'll sing this first verse through and then fellowship. I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore, very deeply stained within, sinking to rise no more. But the master of the sea heard of my despairing cry, from the waters lifted me, now safe am I. Love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me, love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me. All right, guys, let's fellowship. I almost forgot that. I forgot that last lift. Sir. Let's roll. Start it.
But I'm like, I don't want to turn up to you right now.
What's up? Good to see you. Good morning. David, man. How you been, bro? It's good to see you. How the children's good? I'll just tell you this much. Once you figured it out, they throw you for another loop. That's why we love our children, right? Keep us on our toes.
I definitely love them.
Yeah, I know. That's all we can ever do is just keep on that effort. So good up. Good job. Good morning. Good to see you. Hi, Gabriel.
Good morning, Angela.
Angela, pleasure to meet you. What's up, man? Hi. What's up, dude? He's all waking up, right? Hey, this is why I drink coffee. I've had it for like 2.5 weeks. Practicing. Oh, that's your 42nd morning. Yeah, good. You'll be all right, dude. Let's go ahead and pick up on verse number 2. All my heart to him I give, ever to him I'll cling. In his blessed presence live, ever his praises sing. Love so mighty and so true, merits my soul's best songs. Faithful, loving service to him belongs. Love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else Jesus completely saves. He will lift you by his love out of the angry waves. He's the master of the sea, billows his will obey. He, your Savior, wants to be saved today. Love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me, love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Great job singing this opening song. You guys please remain standing. Thank you.
Good morning, Merced Baptist Church. Good to see y'all here today. Brother Aaron, may you lead us in prayer? Amen. You may take a seat. To start off on our announcements, I want to welcome you guys to the 5th Sunday. I'm sure you guys had a wonderful message this morning. So, as you guys have noticed, or at least the men have, we already smelled the delicious potluck. Ladies, we saved some for you. So, as you guys know, after the service this morning, we'll go have some potluck lunch. And then right after, we're going to come right back in here, and we're going to start doing the 5-minute messages. And then there will be no afternoon service. God and Country Celebration. Join us on Sunday, July 6th, as we honor God and our country. Bring a friend to join for this celebration Sunday. Merced Baptist Homeschool Group. If you are interested in joining the Merced Baptist Homeschool Group, there will be a meeting held on Sunday, July 20th. Please see Pastor for more information. Vacation Bible School. All aboard for the fun at VBS. Join us for a week filled with learning and laughter as we welcome you to Wander Junction. It'll be July 7th through July 11th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. The ages were the 5 through adult are welcome. And remember, always bring a friend, bring as many people as you can. It's such a wonderful, fun time. There will be a VBS meeting today after the 5-minute messages, so please stick around. That would be all.
You guys can stand for our second song this morning. We're going to sing Heavenly Sunlight on page 580. 580. Walking in sunlight all of my journey, over the mountains, through the deep vale. Jesus had said, I'll never forsake thee, promise divine that never can fail. Heavenly sunlight, flooding my soul with glory divine. Hallelujah, I am rejoicing, singing his praises. Jesus is mine. Shadows around me, shadows above me, never conceal my Savior and guide. He is the light, in him is no darkness, ever I'm walking close to his side. Heavenly sunlight, flooding my soul with glory divine. Hallelujah, I am rejoicing, singing his praises. Jesus is mine. In the bright sunlight, ever rejoicing, pressing my way to mansions above, singing his praises. Gladly I'm walking in sunlight above. Heaven heavenly sunlight, flooding my soul with glory divine. Hallelujah, I am rejoicing, singing his praises. Jesus is mine. Ooh, great job singing. You guys go ahead and be seated. Thank you.
Thank you for being here this morning. We're glad to see such a great crowd. Man, we had a lot of men back there, and they were drooling the whole time that we were back there smelling that food. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. I just want to elaborate a little bit on a couple of the announcements that Marcos made this morning. First of all, I want to talk to you about our God and Country Sunday next Sunday. We're going to be, of course, singing patriotic songs and that kind of thing. But on Sunday evening, I want you to dress in your Wednesday night Camp Discovery dress on Wednesday evening, because we're going to have a short message. Then we're going to have some hot dogs and ice cream. And then we're going to all work together and get things ready for Vacation Bible School that's going to start on Monday night. So we're going to feed you before we put you to work. But you come prepared to do a little bit of work next Sunday evening, just getting prepared, getting the set up for VBS next Sunday afternoon for our Vacation Bible School that's going to be starting a week from tomorrow. And let's pray for cool temperatures, okay? This is always one of those weeks where the power bill takes a big hit, but we'll pray for good temperatures, and the Lord will bless us with a great crowd. And then I want to say a word about the Merced Baptist Homeschool Group. This is something we're starting. As I've thought about encouraging people to homeschool. We're not starting a Christian school here at Merced Baptist Church, but we do encourage homeschooling, and we want to be a blessing to those who have made that decision to homeschool their children. And so we're going to be starting this fall a Merced Baptist homeschool group, and we'll tell you more details about that, but we'll be planning some monthly activities and field trips and those kind of things that will be going on, giving these kids an opportunity to get together and encourage one another. And so there'll be more details that we'll give you on Sunday, July the 20th. Teachers, I would also ask any of our public school teachers if you would be willing to come to that meeting, because one of the things that I want to set up is just maybe offering some help for our homeschool students, especially in some of those upper grade subjects like math and sciences, to be a resource and a help. And God's blessed us with 6 or 7 public school teachers or teachers here in our church. And we're thankful for what you do, and you could be a blessing, and you can use this as a ministry to help not only the kids that you work with every day, but also those part of your church family. And so if you could plan on being at that meeting as well, that would be a great blessing. Please pray this morning and today. The Adezas should be on a plane headed back from the Philippines. They are returning from the future. It's already Monday over there, and so they're going to be coming back from the future, back to the present. And so pray for Don and Rachel and Denise as they'll be traveling back. Boy, we sure have missed them, and I know my wife's diligently praying for them because she's ready for Don to get back and play the piano. But she's done a fantastic job, and she's a great blessing. But she'll be relieved that they'll be back. Pray for them. And just pray for their safety. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to get Gabe going to lead us in one last song this morning, and then we've got a special treat for our special this morning. I saw them practicing. Brother June has been teaching some people to play the guitar, and they are going to be doing the special for us this morning. And so right after we sing this song, they'll come up and they'll play and sing for us this morning. Page 334 at Calvary. Stand one last time with me this morning.
All right, let's raise our voices once more. Years I spent in vanity and pride, caring not my Lord was crucified, knowing not it was for me he died on Calvary. Mercy there was great and grace was free, pardon there was multiplied to me. There my burdened soul found liberty at Calvary. By God's word at last my sin I learned. Then I trembled at the law I'd spurned, till my guilty soul imploring turned to Calvary. Sing it out loud, guys. Mercy there was great and grace was free, pardon there was multiplied to me. There my burdened soul found liberty at Calvary. Verse 3. Now I've given to Jesus everything. Now I gladly own him as my king. Now my raptured soul can only sing of Calvary. Mercy there was great and grace was free, pardon there was multiplied to me. There my burdened soul found liberty at Calvary. Oh, the love that drew salvation's plan. Oh, the grace that brought it down to man. Oh, the mighty gulf that God did span at Calvary. Mercy there was great and grace was free, pardon there was multiplied to me. There my burdened soul found liberty at Calvary. Thank you, guys. Please be seated. Thank you.
The little guys on the end are learning to play the guitar as well, but they're doing a great job helping singing this morning. I can't walk and talk at the same time, much less play the guitar and sing at the same time. So that was a great blessing this morning. Brother June doing a great job teaching these to play the guitar. I think some of them probably had a little bit of experience, but some are just learning, and they're just new to this, and that's wonderful this morning. We're going to look at another message here in this series, Discontinued, and really I think I could stay in the book of Ephesians chapter number 4 with this entire series. I want you to turn there with me this morning, Ephesians 4. I'm going to preach to you this morning on a den of thieves. A den of thieves. Americans are forever relabeling things in order to make them seem less offensive. You used to call it drunkenness, now it's alcoholism. Well, we've done the same thing with shoplifting or theft. Corporations now call it shrinkage. It's not theft, it's not robbery, it's not stealing, it's inventory shrinkage. No matter what you call it, have you ever considered what inventory shrinkage, what shoplifting is costing you? It's not a victimless crime. When a person steals, when a person shoplifts, when a person takes something out of that store that does not belong to them, it costs everybody else. Current estimates reveal that shrinkage or retail theft costs the average American family about $400 extra a year. So people are robbing you $400 every year because they take things. You say, how does that work? Well, retailers just increase the price to cover the cost of the loss. When something gets stolen, when goods are stolen, they have to make up that loss somehow. And so they up the cost of goods. So you're not stealing from Walmart. You're not stealing from Target. You're not stealing from the grocery store. You're stealing from your friends and families and neighbors. From clothing to groceries that you buy, it is estimated that an extra 20% is added to the goods of the cost of those goods simply to cover the loss that companies are dealing with through shrinkage or shoplifting. In 2022, retailers reported, it's just amazing, retailers reported a loss of $112 billion due to shrinkage. $112 billion in 1 year lost because people are stealing. It's not a victimless crime. You're stealing from your family and friends and neighbors. As you study the life of Christ, you will find that in many instances, he dealt with the subject of theft. There was a lot surrounding Christ's life in this thing of thievery. For instance, Judas was a thief. He was a liar and a traitor. Jesus encountered a tax collector one day named Zacchaeus, who had stolen from other people by collecting more taxes than what they actually owed. And Jesus told him that if he wanted to be right with God, that he needed to go and return that fourfold to them. Jesus died on a cross, hanging between two thieves. But perhaps the most memorable encounter that Jesus had with thieves was when he went into the temple and he overturned tables of people that were there to exploit and extort people as they went to worship at the temple. And listen, I want you to understand from the get-go this morning what I'm going to preach. I know there are pastors and there are ministries and there are churches that have stolen from people, that have extorted people, that have used giving and preaching on giving for personal gain. I know that. And that's why the world gives Christianity and giving and those kind of things a bad rap. But there in Christ's righteous indignation, he overturned the tables of those who were exploiting and extorting people as they came to worship and corrupting their worship through personal finance and gain. And he said to them, these words written in Matthew 21:13, "My house shall be called a house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves." And sometimes, church, I wonder this morning if Christ came and visited churches and looked at Christians and looked at our lives, if he would not say once again that my house is a den of thieves. The church being a den of thieves needs to be brought to an end. It needs to be discontinued. It's something that Christ does not want for his people. Look with me here in Ephesians 4:28. The Bible says, "Let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands the thing which is good, that he may have to give to him that needeth." I wonder this morning if our church, if Christ examined us, if our church is a den of thieves, or is it a house of prayer? I sure hope not, but before we quickly answer that question, I think we need to consider exactly what is being said here in this verse. What exactly is Christ saying to us when he says, "Let him that stole steal no more"? Let's look at that this morning. Let's look at this den of thieves. I want you to see, first of all, the discontinued robbery. The discontinued robbery. It starts there with that little phrase, "Let him that stole steal no more." And you're probably quick to say, "Well, this message doesn't apply to me," and so you could easily check out and say, I may be a lot of things, Pastor, and I have a lot of failures and a lot of faults, but I'm not a thief." Well, hold on a minute. Don't be so quick to judge yourself so righteously. Paul here is addressing the members of the church of Ephesus and the members of that church. He is urging them that they should no longer be thieves, they should no longer be robbers. Obviously, they had in that church people who were stealing. Otherwise, why would he address it? Why would he give a command? And he's saying, look, those that are Christians, those that call themselves after Christ in his name, you need to put an end to theft. You need to put an end to stealing. You need to put an end of robbery. And it's obviously a problem, otherwise there would not be a command for that problem. And since the Holy Spirit saw fit for Paul not only to write to the church of Ephesus and say that, but to include those words in the Bible, I think the Holy Spirit realized that there would be a problem in 2025. That there would be a problem throughout the churches, throughout the ages. That there would be people in churches who would steal. At first consideration, we might quickly reject that notion. That of all the sins that we struggle with, this is one that I don't struggle with. But let's think about that theft for a moment. What is theft? Simply defined, theft is wrongfully taking and carrying away what belongs to another. It's taking what doesn't belong to you, what belongs to somebody else. That's a simple definition of theft. And I believe we have a bigger problem in Christianity than we would like to admit in this thing of theft. Let me share with you 4 areas this morning in which I believe Christians are thieves. 4 areas where there's Christians that are actually doing theft, robbery that should not be. First of all, there's monetary thieves. There's monetary thieves. That's most often, when we think of thievery, when we think of robbing and stealing, our minds first of all goes to material or monetary theft. That theft is easy to detect. It's tangible. And let me start right off by saying, taking what belongs to somebody else, that's wrong, and you know that. The 10 Commandments tells us, thou shalt not steal. You should not take what belongs to somebody else. You may be at this point be looking around and saying, who in the world is he preaching to? Are we a bunch of fellow prisoners in here that does he know things that I don't know? No, I do know human nature. And it's human nature to be selfish. And it's human nature to avoid work and to take what does not belong to others so that we don't have to work for it. I've mentioned to you before, if you want to read a little book that will change your complete political viewpoint on things, there's a little book written by an 18th century Frenchman by the name of Frédéric Bastiat, simply called The Law. It's less than 100 pages. You can order it for a couple of bucks on Amazon. But he talks about plunder, and he talks about legal plunder, and he talks about human nature. And it's just in our nature, our fallen nature, to want to avoid work if we can. Because work is painful. And so if we can take instead of working, we'll do so. But I think the biggest theft that happens with Christians as far as monetary is actually stealing from God. I think it's the theft that we commit upon God that is the biggest theft in the Christian circles. Look with me in the book of Malachi. Malachi is that book right before Matthew. Look at Malachi chapter number 3, verse number 8. God asks a question here. Will a man rob God? We might first look at that question and say, how is that even possible? How in the world could anybody even begin to rob God? We're certainly not more powerful than Him. We're not wiser than Him. We're not smarter than Him. So how in the world would it be possible for a man to rob God? That probably is our first question. But God goes on to answer that question. Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. How? But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? Here it is, in tithes and offerings. God says, you've robbed me by your lack of giving. That's how you've robbed me. I give and give and give and give, and some never give to God in return. And God says, when you do that, you're not grateful, and you're robbing God. I read in Psalms this morning, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. See, everything you have and everything you make and everything you own, it does not belong to you. It belongs actually to God. God just lets you steward it. He's let you borrow it. And God asked the question here in Malachi 3:8, will a man rob God? And then he says, yet ye have robbed me in tithes and offerings, and it seems impossible that man would even be capable of robbing from God. And it seems foolish to think that men are willing to try and rob from God. And yet I say to you this morning that churches are full of thieves who rob from God. You can try and spin this all you want and say, well, you're in the Old Testament, Pastor. All right, let's go to Matthew 23. It's New Testament. You say, you're under the law, Pastor. Okay. If that's the way you want to look at it. I might remind you, Abraham tithed before the law ever existed. So tithing preceded the law. And look at Jesus here. This is from the words of Christ himself. In Matthew 23:23, Jesus is preaching a scathingly rebuking message against the Pharisees. And yet, of all the things that he says in this message, he actually commends them for something. I mean, they were scoundrels. They're the ones who targeted him for crucifixion. Again and again, he pronounces woe unto them in this message. Again and again, he calls them a generation of vipers. And yet he actually commends something about them here in this scathing message. What is it that he commends? Look at verse number 23. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law. He says, you're so careful to even pay tithes on the spices that you get, on the little things that you get. You're careful to pay a tithe even on those things. But you've neglected important things. You're cautious in this area and careless in this other area. But then notice what he says. You have omitted weightier matters of law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not leave the other undone. He's saying, what they did in paying the tithe was right. They ought to have done that. And you ought to do that. Jesus is telling his followers they ought to do this. Are we not his followers? Is he not laying the groundwork and the foundation for the church? Yes. So he's telling the church, you ought to do this. Not neglect the other stuff, but you ought to do this. And some will still say, oh, Pastor, you're still talking about law giving. You're right. It was incorporated in the law. As I said, Abraham did it before the law, but it was incorporated in the law. But I'm not going to take the time. You go home and you read Matthew chapter number 5. That great Sermon on the Mount. You know what Jesus said in that Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter number 5? Whatever the law required, grace takes us further. That's the message of Matthew 5. Is whatever the law required, grace ought to take us further than that. He said, the law requires you to carry a man's coat 1 mile. He says, grace will tell you, carry it 2. So if tithing was law giving, you won't like grace. Grace giving doesn't mean giving less than that 10%. It probably means giving more than that. Giving above that. I said on Wednesday evening, even if you believe tithing is limited to the Old Testament, you shouldn't thump your chest and say, we're living now in a day of grace and not law, because tithing is minimum giving. It's robbery. Folks, do you not realize it's robbery for you to come in here week after week and enjoy air conditioning? Use hand towels, which we have to order like constantly. Other supplies. You're stealing from other people in here who are paying to provide for those things if you're not contributing. It's theft. It's robbery to come and enjoy those things and worship in a clean building and comfortable chairs and not give anything to the Lord's work. You are living, or should I say, taking from others and enjoying for yourself. And I would not want to meet God knowing that I have been a thief in his house. Several years ago, someone came out with a bumper sticker that said this: tithe if you love Jesus. Any idiot can honk. It's easy to honk. You really want to love Jesus, show it with your giving. I wonder this morning, if God reviewed your giving, are you a thief? My wife and I faithfully tithe. over every blessing God gives to us. In addition to salary, every time someone gives us a little extra, every time somebody gives my wife is so diligent, so faithful in that, even when we get money for birthdays, and even when we get money for Christmas, and even when we get money here and there, we always give the Lord His part over every bit of our increase. Some steal from God, and you ought to cut it out. By the way, I heard this week, and I just want to share this with you. I don't know who said it, and I adapted it a little bit, but here are 9 reasons why I tithe. And I thought, man, these are so good, I got to share these. 9 reasons why I tithe. Number 1, it provides for God's work in the ministry of the local church. It provides for God's work in the ministry of the local church. Number 2, I tithe because it tells God I trust Him. It tells God I trust Him. Number 3, it creates space in my life for God to work and grow my faith. When I give, I'm not only saying, God, I trust you, but sometimes I'm giving and I don't have a lot to give, and it creates space for God to say, yeah, now you're going to have to really trust me, and I'm going to prove myself to you. And it gives God an opportunity to grow our faith. Number 4, it reminds me that I am not the source of my blessings. It reminds me that I am not the source of my blessings. Number 5, it connects my money to an eternal purpose. It connects my money to an eternal purpose. Number 6, it gives my job an eternal significance. That job you're working it for the Lord. It's giving your job an eternal significance. Number 7, it transforms my money into a seed of eternal investment. Isn't that something wonderful? It takes something tangible here on earth and it transforms it into something that is eternal in nature. Number 8, here's a big one. It breaks greed and self-reliance off my heart. It breaks that stranglehold of grief and self-reliance off my heart. And number 9, this is probably the best. It lets everything else in my life know that God is first. It just tells everything else in my life, hey, God's number 1. God's first. But it's not just God we steal from monetarily. I hate to say it, but even Christians steal from the government. Now, trust me, I'm considered self-employed, and I have to report my income to the government, and I have to pay quarterly, and I don't want to pay the government 1 cent more than I have to. So everything I can write off and every way I can legally get out of paying more taxes, I take advantage of. But it's wrong for you to cheat on your taxes. It's wrong for you to make income and not report it. That's stealing. It's stealing from the government. Just like it's stealing from God for you to come in here and enjoy a comfortable, clean, air-conditioned building and not contribute to that. It's wrong for you to not report your income and pay your taxes and enjoy the fact that your garbage gets collected every week. You're stealing from your neighbors who are paying for that. See, taxes go to a lot of different things, and some we agree with and some we don't agree in. It's reported that several years ago, I saw a report that revealed that nurses, over 90% of nurses fail to report all their income. Tax evasion, Christian, listen to me. Tax evasion is theft. You say, I sure wasn't expecting this message this morning. When you don't pay your fair share of taxes, and that means you're taking money under the table and you're not reporting the taxes and the things that you made, when you're doing that, you are stealing and enjoying the services and the programs of government paid for by your neighbors. It's theft. Gaming the government systems to get money is theft. I know the government punishes us to get married. And I've had young couples call me up and say, will you perform a ceremony, a religious ceremony, and not a civil ceremony? What they're trying to do is get around government. They're wanting to still report to government that we're still single, but be right in the sight of God. Well, you're not right in the sight of God anyway, because Jesus said, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. So Jesus says, pay your taxes. That's what he's saying. Jesus paid his taxes. Now, he's not like Abby and went out and fished and caught nothing. Jesus sent Peter to go fish. He went and caught a fish and had money in its mouth, and he paid his taxes. I'm just going to say these things. I know they're not popular, but they're right. Staying on disability when you could work, that's theft. Staying on unemployment longer than you have to when you could work, it's theft. Oh, you say, how deep are you going to go with this, Pastor? All right, here we go. Saving your cup from McDonald's and then using it on the next trip, Christian, that's theft. That's theft. It's not right. And it shouldn't be a part of your life. And you say, how many little such thefts are present in the lives of God's people, and people are watching? And what a poor and sad testimony that God's people have not discontinued stealing. When God saved us, that ought to be cut out of our life. And we ought to just pay what is due. We ought to give what is due, whether it's to God or government or McDonald's. Just give what is due. I could spend all morning parked right there on monetary things, but I want to cover a couple others this morning. How about minute thieves? Uh-oh. Some are not money or material thieves, but some are minute thieves. Your most precious commodity is time. And when you are constantly making people wait on you, and you are constantly showing up late, and people are constantly having to waste their time waiting on you, you are stealing their most precious commodity. And it's wrong. Be punctual. Be more than punctual. Show up early. If you are constantly making people wait on you because you are chronically late and that's just known about you, you are a time thief. You are a minute thief. We have had people over the years that we gave rides to church, and we would go to pick them up, and every time we would go to pick them up, these are adults, I'm not talking about children, but every time you go to pick them up, you would even call them the night before and tell them, I'm going to be here at your house at this time. And then you show up, and every single time, you got to wait 10, 15, 20 minutes for them to get ready. It's a time thief. It's disrespectful. I'm just going to say this, and Don's not here, so I can say it. But a lot of doctors and medical practices, they're time thieves. They're stealing people's time. Overbooking, overscheduling, and then making you wait long periods of time because they book too many patients. You'll be charged a fee if you show up late. But if they don't care if they make you wait. Well, how about this, Christian? goofing off at work when you're supposed to be working and not working like you're supposed to be working, you're stealing your employer's time. Employers steal our time as well, making us work longer than we are supposed to, making us go to endless meetings and conferences which take us away from doing what we're supposed to be doing. Co-workers steal the time of others when they're lazy and don't do their job, and so other people have to make up the slack because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Proverbs 18:9, he also that is slothful in his work is a brother to him that is a great waster. Don't be lazy, Christian. If you're a lazy person, you are stealing people's time. You are wasting. If you've been a minute thief, God says stop it. Let him that stole steal no more. Put an end to it. Then there's mental thieves. Mental thieves. Some people will not rob you of time or money, but they'll rob you of your joy. Sorry, Debbie. Debbie Downers. Not this Debbie. She's always laughing. But those Debbie Downers who are always pessimistic, always critical, always bitter, they'll sap the joy right out of your life. They will rob you of your joy. And if that's you, stop it. And if those are people that you have in your life, then you probably maybe need to distance yourself from them. Others will rob you of your peace. Some like drama. They like to stir up things. They just like to keep things stirred up. And all they will do is rob you of your peace. Complaining, criticism, questioning, accusing. Others rob us in other areas of our emotional and mental well-being. If you have a negative, critical, bitter spirit, you are robbing people of their joy. Remember when they were rebuilding, we just studied Ezra. Remember when they were rebuilding the temple in Ezra's day, in the book of Ezra? And they had just completed the rebuilding of the temple. And some of the older men began to sob and weep. It was a day of victory. It was a day of celebration. It was a day of rejoicing. And you got these certain men who are crying and weeping. Why? Because it was a pale comparison to what Solomon had built. And so they're comparing and they're saying, oh, this is terrible. This is not a good thing. Look at how flimsy and how diminished and how terrible this temple is compared to what we used to have back in the good old days. And there are people like that today. Thankfully, in the book of Ezra, the people rejoicing shouted down the people that were weeping. And that's what you're going to have to do and keep people from robbing you of your joy. Gossip and talebearing. Rob people of their reputation. You steal away from people's character when you slander and gossip. I saw this week a young 29-year-old lady committed suicide because she was being harassed on the internet. It happens every week. That's stealing from people. It's stealing people's peace. It's stealing people's joy. It's stealing people's emotions. I wonder this morning, are you a mental thief? Lastly, as far as thieves this morning, I wonder if you are a moment thief. Some people steal people's opportunities. You steal moments. Because of your bad behavior, because of your poor testimony, I wonder if there are people here that have stolen from others the opportunity of being saved. You chewed out that waitress. You maybe even used foul language on Friday night when you went out to dinner. And then on Saturday morning, that same lady sees you coming and putting an invitation to church on her door, and she's going to look at you and say, if that's what Christians are, I don't want to have anything to do with Christ. And guess what? You just helped steal her opportunity of being saved. You just helped steal an opportunity of God working in her life. In that moment of time where God has worked to soften people's heart, we ruin it sometimes by our untimely and unchristlike behavior. 1 Corinthians 8:9, but take heed, lest by any means this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to them that are weak. I wonder how many today, this morning, are in hell because Christians were used by Satan to steal away the moment of opportunity of salvation from others. By the way, I wonder how many Christians have unwillingly become a distraction during worship services, or by talking or being on your phone, or by their phone ringing, or by moving around unnecessarily. And what you've done is you've unwittingly allowed Satan to use you as a distraction to draw people's focus away from God and His Word, and may have stolen an opportunity away from somebody else. I wonder maybe if you've even done it to other Christians. Because you were bored, because you weren't into some service, you allowed Satan to use you to help steal somebody else's moment from them. We see the discontinued robbery. Notice the diligence required. He says, let him that stole steal no more. There is a solution. It's simple. 2 ways to end theft real quickly. Let him that stole steal no more. Notice the letting up expected. The letting up expected. How do I stop stealing? God just says, stop it. Pretty simple. Just don't do it. Maybe this morning God has already placed His finger on some area in your life and in your heart. You say, I realize this morning, I recognize this morning, I am a thief. I have been stealing from God. I have been stealing from government. I have been stealing from other people minutes. I have been stealing emotions and joy and happiness from the lives of others. Maybe I've even stolen opportunities in the lives of others. You say, how do I not do that anymore? Just stop it. Let him that stole, just don't do it anymore. There's no big formula. Just determine, I'm not going to do that. That's it. That's all. Let him that stole steal no more. The thief does not have to steal. He can respect and value what belongs to others and determine that he will not take that does not belong to him. And no doubt there's diligence required, because as you can see, there are many ways that we can steal from others. More than was mentioned already this morning. But the solution is simple. Stop it. Just stop it. Just don't do it. We see the letting up expected, and then we see the labor that is encouraged. What should I do instead? Well, let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands the thing which is good, and that he may have to give to him that needeth. The solution to theft is labor. It's a lasting remedy. There is nothing dishonorable about manual labor. Work is not a curse. God gave Adam work to do before he sinned. Sure, he cursed his work, made it more difficult. But work itself is not a curse. You think about Christ. We know virtually nothing from the time of his birth and just one episode when he was about 12 until he's 30. You say, what was he doing for those 18 years? Working. No doubt he was working. He was just laboring. Just working as a carpenter. Working in skill. He lives a quiet life of obscurity. It takes work to end theft, by the way. No matter what kind of theft we're talking about, certainly work is an end to monetary theft, but it's also an end to minute theft. You're going to have to work at it. If you're constantly, chronically late to things, you're going to have to labor to stop doing that. You're going to have to work at not doing that. If you are constantly stealing and sapping people's joy because you're critical and pessimistic, trust me, you're going to have to labor to stop doing that. It's going to require work. You're going to have to work to change who you are and your attitude about things. You're going to have to work to have a better attitude and a better spirit. Work on controlling your tongue. Boy, that takes a lot of work. Work on being aware that you represent Christ in everything that you do and that you do not want to take a moment away from anybody else. You don't want to take away an opportunity from anybody else and what God is trying to do in their life. Then lastly, we see the distribution recommended. Verse number 28, let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands the thing which is good, that he may have to give to him that needeth. Theft ultimately takes us down a selfish way of living. Let's just be honest. Theft is selfishness. It just is. In life, you are either a giver or a taker. And I hate to say, but there are more takers in our world than givers. Now, I really hate to say, but in the church, usually, there are more takers than givers. I feel very blessed to be pastor of Merced Baptist Church because I've been in church my whole life and I've seen how God's people sometimes do, and we don't have some of these things that I'm about to mention here at our church, and I'm glad of that. And we got done with Sunday school, and I asked those men to set up those tables. Most churches, it'd be about 10% of the guys that would actually jump into action. But for our guys, it's about 90% of the guys that just jump right in. But the average church, 10% of the people do 90% of the work. Why? Because the world is filled with more takers than givers. And theft is selfish. Theft is what it's in it for me. How can I benefit? What do I get out of it? The believer who loves the Lord with all his heart and soul and mind, he won't steal from the Lord. Don't tell me you love the Lord and you don't give to him. Sorry, I don't believe you. I just don't believe you. It's not possible. The believer who loves his neighbor as he loves himself won't steal from that neighbor. None of us likes to be stolen from. Nothing angers us more than for people to take things from us. God recommends here that we get our eyes off of self and begin to look on the needs of others. That'll help us put an end to theft. To work to help meet the needs of others. That will help prevent even the slightest temptation of theft from developing in our hearts. The story is told of a man who was asked, "Are you a believer in the Christian religion?" "Oh, certainly." Then the man says, "So then you must be a member of a church, I suppose." "Member of a church? No, Indeed, I am not. Why should I be a member of the church? It was quite unnecessary. The dying thief wasn't a member of the church, and he still went to heaven. The man thought for that about the world, and he says, well, then certainly you've been baptized. You know the example of Christ and the command to be baptized. The man says, baptized? That is another needless ceremony. I'm as safe as the dying thief. He was never baptized. Certainly, sir, that you must, since you will not join a church or be baptized, certainly you must do something to acknowledge your gratitude of your faith. Certainly you must give of your means. You will help others in some way. No, sir, I do nothing of the sort. The dying thief. And at that point, the man interrupted him and said, my friend, before you go any further, you seem to be on pretty intimate terms with the dying thief. You seem to derive a great deal of consolation from his career. But can I remind you, there's one important difference between you and him. He was a dying thief, and you're a living one. Church, can I urge you this morning? Let's not make this a den of thieves, but rather a house of prayer. Let him that stole steal no more. Heads bowed and eyes closed this morning. Would you be here this morning and you say, Pastor, as you were going through those things, whether it be money or minutes, mental or moments, as you were going through those things, God spoke to my heart, and I realized I unknowingly and unwittingly have stolen from people. I've sometimes stolen people's joy. I've sometimes stolen even people's opportunity. I've stolen people's time. Maybe I've stolen from the government or stolen from God. But you be here this morning, you as a Christian, you say, Pastor, God did speak to my heart, and I realized this morning I've got some theft in my life that I don't want to admit is there, but it's there, and I don't want to do it anymore. And you want to just slip up